board. Right now, at this point in time, I'm looking at a committee of a whole where your chairman has declared any time that you meet with a quorum, you are a board of commissioners. You're not a committee. You approved it here about 3 weeks ago when you approved as a board of commissioners in a committee of the whole that you could release a legal document. So you can't have it both ways. You're either a board of commissioners when you meet as a quorum, or you're a committee of a whole. Open Meetings Act states that you are a board anytime you have a quorum and you come into a decision-making body. So are you declaring this committee today with a quorum as a committee or as a board? If you take any action on anything today, you're doing it as a board of commissioners, not as a committee. Does that make sense to you folks? So soon as your chairman says he entertains the motion and you folks say moved, so moved, and second, and then you vote, are you in violation of the Open Meetings Act? I'm looking at it as you are. So I've asked or said that you can reduce your meetings based on how you run things. You approve things and take them to a commissioners meeting when you've already approved them and you make recommendations to yourself. If you can't look at what you do and have continuous improvement and look how you improve yourselves, how can you expect people that you oversee to do it? So I'm really sitting here saying, make a motion and vote on it and say you're a committee of the whole. I think you're in violation, and we may have to find out. Because it's just to the point, I'm not hearing commissioners listening to the people. Same thing with your, well, I'm out of time, but I guess you've been warned. I think if you vote, you're in violation of the Open Meetings Act. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there further public comment? Hearing none, we'll move ahead. The first item before the committee is an interview for the Barry County Community Mental Health Authority Board. We did receive word yesterday that the individual looking to be interviewed by the committee is sick, or they have a something came up. So if there's no objection from the committee, we'll reschedule that interview for next week. That sound good to everybody?
Yes.
All right. The next item is an interview for the Parks and Recreation Commission. So do we have Nicole Like here? Good morning, Nicole.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. So we're going to give you a couple of minutes to share with the committee why you'd like to serve and what skills are that you can bring to the Parks and Recreation Commission.
All right. Well, thank you. I know I talk quiet, so I'll move this closer so you guys can all hear me. Yeah, I was approached, and I've been looking to be more actively involved with the county in different avenues, and I saw that there was the board opening for the Parks and Rec. As a citizen in Barry County, Parks and Rec are something that we take advantage of all the time. I have small children, and we use the parks throughout the summer and the winter, and it's a really valuable asset that we have. So being able to use the skills that I've developed working at the Chamber and the EDA, and in that realm, I think that I have a lot that I can bring to the Parks and Rec Committee. I'm really hoping that I get appointed. Obviously, that is a decision left up to you guys. But this would be something that I would be doing not as a member of the Chamber or the EDA. I would be representing myself as a citizen and approaching it from the perspective of what is best for the community as a resident of this community that uses these assets. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm not super great at talking about myself, so I'm going to go ahead and
You're doing fine.
Thanks. So I'll hand it over to you guys, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
All right, we're going to start with Commissioner Campbell. Do you have any questions or comments?
Don't have any questions. I did have the pleasure of riding up the elevator with her this morning and discussing a few things, and she just seems like she'd be spot on for this appointment.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Jackson?
I've worked with Nicole on several boards involving the Chamber and EDA. She's a great student, gets the details right. I think she'd be an asset to that board with the grant writing and her ability to bring some of the managerial skills to it as well to help out.
Thank you. Vice Chair Connor?
In your resume, where you say unique or valuable perspectives and/or resources, so are you a member of is it the Michigan Economic Development Alliance also?
Yes, yep, I work for the Chamber and EDA, and then I'm an individual member of MITA.
Of what?
MITA.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Okay, I just wondered because I thought, well, I'm going to just ask if she works there too, but you're just a member.
Yep, just a member.
Okay.
I sit on their education committee, and we help with some of the programming, but other than that, I generally just attend to learn things.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. And that's the only question I had. Thank you
Commissioner
for
Gibson?
interviewing.
Thank you.
I think you'd be an asset to that board. I have no questions, so thank you for applying.
And Commissioner Smelker?
No question. Thank you for applying.
I've worked with Nicole quite a bit in the past on different issues, and she brings a real vision and real desire to see Berry County improve, and I think you'd be great on the board. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. And actually, I am going to head back to the office and reopen that up for the public. So if you have any questions, you have all my contact information. Feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
So at this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners the appointment of Nicole Like to fill a citizen-at-large position on the Parks and Recreation Board for a 3-year term that began on January 1st, 2022 and ends on December 31st, 2024.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
A motion is made by Gibson, supported by Jackson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Nicole. This time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend the Board of Commissioners adoption of Resolution 2204, a resolution amending the Berry County Board of Commissioners Rules of Procedure and Regulations.
Thank you. So
Are
this-
you moving this?
Yes.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Discussion. Vice
So-
Chair Connor.
Thank you. So this is the same motion that we had back the 1st of March. And we released the information from the attorney. And so that was why we tabled it. And so you've had a month to look at it. So nothing's changed. We didn't change anything. We just tabled it until you could be provided with that information, which we made available to you and the public at the last meeting. That's the only thing that we did.
The only change I would make is striking the word disrespectful
Where are you, Ben?
on item 3,
Okay.
on the first page, the 4th line. Actually, you could just strike or disrespectful. There's a lot of flexibility in what's defined as
Oh, on the fifth one-
disrespectful.
The fifth line.
Yeah. That's the only change I would make. But this is your proposal, so.
Well, like I said, I mean, last time we I made the changes that were recommended the first time, which were to remove the germane.
The word germane is still in here, though.
What? I see that. Okay.
What would you like to do?
Well, that was supposed to have been removed, I thought it was. But we could strike that also. And then we brought it back, and then we tabled it because they wanted to see the attorney's recommendations. And again, this was brought forward when Heather was the chair. Really didn't change anything, just we had already sought information, we had already talked to our attorney and sought counsel, and
Right. So if we remove that as well, would be the beginning on the second line, second word in, such as, it would read such as, comma, but not limited to, speaking or otherwise disrupting the proceedings by speaking longer than the allotted time, comma.
and then,
And then if we incorporate the other change that I suggested, it would continue by speaking vulgarities, by making comments that are intimidating, threatening, harassing, or by making comments directed at a member of the public, comma. What are the board's thoughts? This is a standard I can understand and I can institute as chair by taking those pretty vague terms out. I think it's a workable policy. So let's vote on the amendment. So the chair would entertain a motion to amend the proposal before the committee by striking the words "by failing to be germane," comma, and striking the words "or disrespectful." Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there support? I'll support it. All those in favor, discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
There are 4 ayes and 2 nays. The amendment passes. The question now before the committee is approval of the recommendation of the Board of Commissioners for adoption of Resolution 2204, a resolution amending the Berry County Board of Commissioners Rules of Procedures and Regulations as amended. Is there further discussion?
Ben, Mr. Chairman, I'm kind of feeling like I'm not quite up to speed on this. I have read all the stuff and the lawyers and stuff. And I know that probably affects the chairman as much as anybody here, so I'm just wanting to hear a little more of your comments on this. Yeah, I know we've had an unusual year. COVID has sometimes not brought out the best in everybody. But, you know, it has been that way a long time, the way it existed a long time, and it seemed to be problem-free till Mr. COVID showed its head. And so I'm just kind of middle of the road on it, to be honest.
So, you're right, we have had an interesting and unprecedented couple of years based on a lot of factors. But Commissioner Connor had brought something forward that we had talked about when Heather Wing was chair about putting in the rules what the expectations are for public comment. We brought it up. I had some concerns, especially by the failing to be germane and the word disrespectful. We tabled it and said we'd bring it back up again, and so now the proposal is back here with those changes. So it's a continuation of a discussion that's been happening with our board rules over the last couple of years. And I don't see anything in here that would make the chairperson's role more difficult.
what's in here that we don't already have?
Can you turn your mic on?
What's in here that we don't already have? It's under your control anyways, Chair, right?
Right. Robert's Rule of Order, which is adopted by the board as the governing rules, lay out what's allowed and what's not allowed. However, not all of Robert's rules are printed in our board rules. It would make it, this thick. So what this does is just reiterate some of the items that Robert's rules are based on and reflects the spirit of those rules. But for the real reasons behind proposing this, I'll let Vice Chair Connor speak to that.
Well, I guess the reason to do this is we aren't the only board that is seeing this happen. At the MAC conference, we went to the breakout on the Open Meetings Act, and this is happening all over. I mean, whether it's COVID, whether it's whatever it is. I hate to blame it on COVID, but I think I'm talking. It is happening. It's out there. We see it, and so when we asked our attorney for an opinion of what we could or couldn't do and how could we do it, so that we could get through our meetings, and this is what was recommended, that we have rules written down and what I would used to call a school issue. When you go to school, they have all these rules because they want you to behave in a certain manner, and you hate to do it, but if we ever should need to do anything or have a problem, a real problem, you have to have your rules spelled out. And basically, that's what the attorney's opinion said. That's merely what it is. Probably 99% of the time, but there's always one time. So it's just making the rules more clear.
Should Robert Rules of Orders be used as a guideline? Once you adopt the rules, you got to go by the rules 100%.
And we do.
And we do.
I do go by the Robert's Rules of Order. So I don't see any problem with changing the rules to add this section in there.
I don't think we've had that much trouble in the past. I'm for leaving them in the way they were.
Other thoughts?
I don't think it's a tremendous change. I think, like John, I think we have under our control pretty much everything that this restates in a different format already. So I don't know if we're painting it with a different brush or what we're doing, or just making a little more fine-tuned. Robert's Rules has always been a guideline for us. The Open Meetings Act is what we have to follow first and foremost.
Exactly.
So we can't violate Open Meetings Acts in any way, shape, or form. Some things are going to be construed as guidelines. So, like I said, it may fine-tune it a little bit, but I don't see it one way or other dramatically changing what we're already doing. So
It's basically just a written clarification.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I would be
Fine-tune.
in favor of that clarification. I just was cautious that we don't give the appearance that we're putting additional restraints on our citizens and stuff from speaking and things like that. So it appears to only be just a more clarification of what we already have.
Right.
So.
And I think it's important to note that this Board of Commissioners has very few restrictions on what somebody can come and speak on for public comment. Years ago, we eliminated the rule that public comment had to be related to issues related to county business. This allows people to speak on issues that are important to the county, but might not necessarily be on the agenda. For instance, something that's going on in another local government or another community. Now, we might not have that on the agenda, but it's important and practical that this Board of Commissioners hear about it. So by removing that restriction, we remove impediments for us hearing what's important to the community. And that's why we removed failing to be germane, because that's not immediately part of our board rules as it is. So this fits with what we're doing and just sets a high standard for civil discussion. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, the question before the committee is to recommend the Board of Commissioners adoption of Resolution 2204, a resolution amending the Berry County Board of Commissioners Rules of Procedure and Regulations. The clerk will call the roll.
Campbell. Aye. Connor.
Aye.
Getty absent. Gibson.
Nay.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smelker.
Nay.
Geiger.
Aye. Majority of the committee having voted in favor thereof, the resolution is recommended. Rachel France from the Berry County Recycles Committee. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the attached memorandum of understanding with Eaton County and agreement for disposal of scrap tires, and authorize the chairperson to sign.
I make that motion?
Is there support?
Support,
That motion
Jackson.
is made by Connor, supported by Jackson. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning.
What do we have here?
So the Memorandum of Understanding is a document from Eaton County. This is a kind of a leftover document. We have had a tire grant with them. It's through Eagle. So this is just for an extension of that grant to help us with our tire disposal event in May, providing one trailer. And again, that's just leftover funds from last year, which is actually leftover from 2020. And we just need a signature for that. Would you like me to talk about the additional documents as well right now?
I'm going to let the committee ask some questions first. We have two commissioners that sit on the committee. We'll start with Commissioner Jackson.
Nope. This is a good thing for Berry County to help clean up the hazardous waste day out at the fairgrounds. So these funds are important that we continue to use them. We've talked about this a little bit in our meetings as well. So I would recommend moving this forward without any issues.
Vice Chair Connor.
Basically the same thing. We have incredible amount of cooperation with people in the past to bring their tires in, and it's been very successful. And just the continuation of this helps Berry County to, keep its roads and, state properties, all of those things looking nice, and the trails. So it's a great opportunity to have a cleanup for and these funds are leftovers, so let's get them used up and keep the tires off of the county.
Anybody else? In my district, specifically in the village of Nashville, there's a need for, a place to take tires. Are we moving toward a permanent piece of infrastructure to collect these tires?
Well, not at this time. However, Nashville does currently collect tires at their transfer station, and we did recently get an alternative bid to collect those at a better price. So
great.
It is, at this time, as far as I'm aware, the transfer stations are the only places that accept tires year-round, but we have these household hazardous waste and tire collection events twice a year, so Hopefully, people aren't going through that many tires, but
So really, there is a place where people in the Nashville area can take tires year-round.
yes. So the transfer station in Nashville also includes the townships of Castleton and Maple Grove. So all three of those local units can use that for the resident fee, and then anybody else can go there for a slightly higher fee.
That's great. Questions, comments? Hearing none, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the attached memorandum of understanding with Eaton County and agreement for disposal of scrap tires and authorize the chairperson to sign. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have Equalization Director Mashaya Rose for the 2022 Berry County equalization values. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners adoption of Resolution 2206, a resolution to accept the 2022 equalization values.
So moved.
Support.
That motion is made by Smelker, supported by Gibson. Discussion. Good morning, Mashaya. So what do we have here?
All right, so today is just a presentation of the recommended 2022 equalization values. This is an annual task that is assigned to the Equalization Department and also the Board of Commissioners. Basically, following Board of Review in March, at that point, local taxpayers have the opportunity to appeal individual assessments to their local Board of Review. Once the Board of Review has approved their assessment roll, all the assessment rolls from all 17 units are turned over to the Equalization Department, where we analyze those rolls and audit them. My main task is to ensure that assessments are between 49 and 50% of true cash value. And so that's what we've done. In the report presented to you in the packet is a summary of that analysis.
And it is a great analysis. You know, having a new director in your seat brings some new perspective. So if you are willing, can you walk us through this presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. I know it looks a little bit different than in previous years. Essentially, me being new to Berry County, this was an opportunity for me to dig into the numbers as well and see what everything looks like.
I think it's helpful to the taxpayers too.
Yes. So, so the first couple pages is just a breakdown from each class. You'll see both equalized value and taxable value. For clarification, equalized value is reflective of true cash value, 50% of true cash value. Taxable value is what local units actually collect tax revenue on. So there's going to be a difference there. Board of Commissioners is only specifically concerned with equalized value, but I know taxable value is usually of interest as well, so I threw that in the report. Next, you'll have a breakdown of each equalized value and taxable value by unit. So that's presented in the graph there. And then a history of Berry County equalized and taxable value by year. So that's taxable value. And this is just historical, so you can see the growth over the last 10 years. The next report is percent changes. This is, percent change is very important for preparing budgets for each unit. Also to see which unit is growing. The total growth from last year is 6.6%. That's pretty much in line with what we're seeing throughout the state with the housing market. So that 6.6% is not surprising at all. It's a good thing. It's showing that Berry County is growing, you know, with the rest of the state.
So you did note that it looks like Irving Township has 11% growth or change in equalized value.
Yes.
There are a couple of different things you highlighted. Do you want to speak to those?
Yeah, I wanted to highlight the top 3% growth and the bottom 3. I have not had an opportunity specifically to dig into the factors driving those growth or that low growth, but I wanted to highlight it so that way anybody who is interested, including myself, can see, you know, what is driving that growth. So that's why I highlighted those.
Thank you.
Same thing with the next chart. So the next one is 5-year analysis, how much growth has occurred over the last 5 years. The 5-year average percent change for Berry County is 5.31%. Again, for budget purposes, that's good information to have.
So we have Woodland that has a 5.27% change in equalized value, but Hope has a 46.41%.
Yes, and that small increase in comparison to the rest of the units, my understanding is that there was an appeal that was settled recently.
Okay.
I don't know the details of that. Again, that's something I want to look into, but that's the type of reason I want to create these charts and these reports, so that way we can look into those factors.
Very helpful.
The next couple charts, the first graph shows the gap between assessed value and taxable value. I've found this very useful in the past because a lot of taxpayers think that their taxes are increasing at the same rate of their home value, and this graph kind of shows that that's not the case. Taxable value is limited by growth to inflation rate. So the blue line represents the actual SEV, equalized value. The orange line represents what local units are actually collecting taxes on, or what the county is collecting taxes on. And there's a gap there because of Proposal A. And then I've done the same analysis for each class. So for agricultural, we can see that the agricultural class has benefited the most from Proposal A, as on the taxpayer side. Their tax growth has been limited the greatest under Proposal A. And then a breakdown for commercial, industrial, and residential.
And then you have further breakdowns for each taxing unit.
Yep, for each unit. And then, again, our main job as the equalization is to ensure that that ratio is between 49 and 50%. If it is not, we would have to apply, I would recommend that we apply a factor. And this year that factor is 1 because all of our units have a ratio between 49 and 50%. So this is that breakdown for each unit to show those calculations.
And then beginning on page 41, you have who are the top 20, or what are the top 20 taxpayers in the county. Interesting data.
Yes.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Great report. Clear, easy to read, a lot of great details in it. It pops, so it was just easier to follow. So I appreciate the effort going into making that all happen. So very good.
Appreciate that. Any other questions or comments?
Very informative. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
It's very good.
The question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners adoption of Resolution 2206, a resolution to accept 2022 equalization values. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The recommendation is made. Thank you. Next, we have a few items from the county administrator. The first is regarding the Mental Health Authority Board. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend the Board of Commissioners reappointment of Don Bowers, Teresa Moody, and Ruth Perino to serve on the Berry County Community Mental Health Authority Board for 3-year terms that began on April 1st, 2022 and expire on March 31st, 2025.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Motion is made by Gibson, supported by Jackson. Discussion. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, everyone. Do my best to answer any questions regarding these. The first one, of course, is the Community Mental Health Authority. And you do have, I think there were 4 appointments. We have 3 renewals, if you may, incumbents. The one that from earlier did not show. So this is just the reappointment of Teresa Moody, Don Bowers, and Ruth Perino, who currently serve on the Community Mental Health Authority.
John is a new member to the Mental Health Board. You think these would be good appointments?
I do, although some haven't showed regularly, but when they do show, they have good input.
Great.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, the question before the committee is to recommend the Board of Commissioners reappointment of Don Bowers, Teresa Moody, and Ruth Perino to serve in the Berry County Community Mental Health Authority Board for 3-year terms that began on April 1st, 2022 and expire on March 31st, 2025. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Recommendation is made. This time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend the Board of Commissioners approval to reappoint John LaForge and Jeff Ned Warnick to serve on the Berry County Planning Commission for 3-year terms that began on May 1st, 2022 and expire on April 30th, 2025.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion is made by Connor, supported by Gibson. Discussion? Vice Chair Connor, you serve on the Planning Commission. You have any
Yes.
thoughts on these reappointments?
These appointments are great. These people have been also, by the board, they were selected to sit on the steering committee for the master plan. So they bring a lot to the board. They have a vast difference of opinion. I mean, they're just both good people.
Great.
Their work is great. I mean, they're always prepared. They always have questions, and they're just both excellent candidates.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, the question before the committee is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approval to reappoint John LaForge and Jeff Ned Warnick to serve in the Berry County Planning Commission for 3-year terms that begin on May 1st, 2022 and expire April 30th, 2025. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. It's time the chair to entertain a motion to reappoint Stacy Graham to serve on the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 3-year term that began on April 1st, 2022 and expires on March 31st, 2025.
So moved.
Support.
The motion is made by Smelker, supported by Jackson. Discussion? I haven't served on the ZBA. In fact, I don't think any of us have. It's a very technical board, and I know Stacy Graham has expressed her strong interest in continuing to serve. She's been a real team member here in Berry County, and she'd be a great person to continue serving that role. Any other discussion? Hearing none, the question before the committee is to reappoint Stacy Graham to serve on the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 3-year term that began on April 1st, 2022 and expires on March 31st, 2025. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Finally, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to reappoint Craig Stolzenberg to serve in the position of citizen at large on the Berry County Tax Allocation Board for a 1-year term that begins on April 1st, 2022 and expires on March 31st, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is made by Smelker, supported by Gibson. Discussion? Michael, do you want to explain what the Tax Allocation Board is?
Sure. The Tax Allocation Board meets annually to determine effectively the split in the allocation for the 7, it's now 7 mills. And the county currently is allocated 5.87 mills, the townships, not including charter townships, just your general law, 1 mill, and then the intermediate school district 0.13 mills. So it's the opportunity for any of those entities to come to the table and make an argument, if you may, why the millage rate should change. The amount of the total 7 mills should change for one. Again, there's only 7 mills there that can be levied. So if somebody gets a little bit more, somebody else is going to get something less. Historically, it has not changed. It has remained the same. It does not have any effect on the Headley override that has calculations that have occurred or reduction fractions that we've seen. So, for example, the county, while the maximum allocated is 5.87 mils, we're currently levying and has been permanently reduced to somewhere in the 5.2 or 5.3. I'm looking at Mashaya, but I don't know if she knows that right off. Okay. Anyways, it is reduced significantly due to reduction fractions. Townships all start at 1 mil, but have their own reduction fractions, so not all townships are able to levy the same amount because of their reduction fractions or their individual reduction fractions, but it's something less than 1 mil. And then the intermediate school district, I don't know what their 0.13 has been reduced to. Talked a little bit about the process. Would be what's called a Headley override. To renew that, that would be a vote of the people. But a subject that moves in connected, but a different subject. So real quick, it's a technical board. I can't say that there's a lot of
Their
excitement
decision
around
really,
it. I can't.
yeah. Their
sugarcoat
decision
anything
hasn't
about
changed really, and
It has not.
it hasn't
It
changed at
has
all.
not. It has remained the same for a number of years now.
Questions or comments?
I talked to Craig yesterday, and he's interested in serving on that board again.
Further questions or comments? Hearing none, the question before the committee is to recommend that the Board of Commissioners approval to reappoint Craig Stolzenberg to serve in the position of citizen at large on the Berry County Tax Allocation Board for a one-year term that begins on April 1st, 2022 and expires on March 31st, 2023. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item, if the committee will allow me, I'd like to take a 10-minute break while I get the discussion set up for the jail millage. Is that okay? All right, hearing no objection, we'll recess for 10 minutes. We're just getting the live stream set up.
Okay, we're good.
So the Board of Commissioners, or excuse me, the committee is called back to order at 9:58. So time is working against Berry County. Our jail continues to crumble and our costs continue to rise. For years we've said this is the number one issue facing this county government. We did have a millage election that was unsuccessful a couple of years ago, so it's important to us to reflect on that. So today I want some open discussion on these three things. What did we learn from the last millage election? What are the risks of not addressing rebuilding the jail in 2022? And what would the county board need to be successful in 2022? So let's start off with, what did we learn from the last millage election? Why do we think it failed?
I don't think people like the idea of not knowing where it was going to be built.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the issues. I don't think anybody's going to vote for a millage until they actually know where the building is going to be built.
Personally think we need a drawing of what we're gonna have too.
Mm-hmm.
These guesses just didn't get it. Approximations.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that costs money. But boy, right now, you know, the last millage, we asked for 25 million. I personally thought 20 would do it. But with that figures, and you're talking about it today, with what we run into at 911, you're talking 30, 35 million. And what did we learn from the last election? We ain't gonna get one this year either, is what I learned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with John and Hoot on that. I was very new to this when that was going about, but the word on the street and out there was that a lot of people didn't really know exactly what they were purchasing. And even though I think the intent was well and everything, I just think a lot of people, hard enough to get a millage, but very hard if they don't know exactly what's going to happen. And I agree with John. We've just, we're 10 million back in a pogey now with this inflation and everything, and probably only going to get worse. So we need a jail. There's no doubt about that.
Thank you. Vice Chair Connor, you have any thoughts?
Still on number one?
Yeah. We can come back to you.
Yeah, come back to me to two.
Dave?
I agree with some of the thoughts you've already heard, that we went to the taxpayers and said, give us the money, here's the plan, trust us. And they said no. The plan was pretty well laid out, but I think if we're going to think about moving forward, I don't think you can do this on a shortened time frame like August or November. I think literally, number one, we need to figure out where the site's going to be. Number two, you need an RFP with some of the companies that we had worked with to come in, because I know some of you guys visited Coldwater, some of you guys visited Wexford County. Both have new jails. Both were reasonably priced, especially Coldwater, for a very large facility. So I think competition will bring some better pricing. And then we need a plan to implement, present, and show to the community the entire, everything from site to drawing to execution. And four, there is a window, maybe Michael can answer this, but the Thornapple millage, Thornapple Manor millage is falling off here in a year or 2 years. When is it coming off, Michael? Is it 24?
I was thinking it was a little later than I will.
Okay.
I'll confirm that.
So I think we need to proceed with caution and with some very good planning and detail, potentially involving some other members of the community. I know it's a county jail, but it wouldn't hurt to have other eyeballs on it from people involved in the community for insight, because if you're going to get a millage passed, it has to have broad-based support. Mm-hmm. We need our sheriff to be on board, be a promoter of this, be talking to different groups, organizations, promoting. It's a county jail, but we can't do it all from these seats as part-time as we are. But there has to be community understanding and acceptance. And although we worked hard at that last year, we found out at those meetings that we did in different parts of the county, they just weren't really well attended for a county of 62,000 people. So we can do a better job in a lot of different areas, but I don't see it being a 2022 project. I think this is going to take some time for us to work through it.
What do you guys think? You think it's a 2022 project, or
No, I don't.
you think it's?
Yeah, because just like David said, we need RFPs and this location. You know, I was pretty set on a location, but if there's a better one around there, let's find it, get it, and then say it's going to be here, and this is how it's going to be built, and get some plans, and get a price on it. And I also agree with David that it has to be a county-wide backed. And we need our sheriff to go out and talk to these people. And that's it.
Talk about the risks for not addressing the jail in 2022. We've said before that this facility is in desperate need of rebuilding, that its usable life is behind it, and that costs for repairing it are going to continue to go up. So If we're not interested or don't feel we're ready to go in 2022, we have to understand what the risks are, what the consequences might be. It's escalating costs, potentially competing with other millage proposals if you put it on the ballot.
I believe we had that right along.
Yeah.
But the escalating costs, I agree with you 100%.
Mr. Connor?
Well, addressing it, I mean, even, I can't see that we can get a plan together and be successful this year. I mean, maybe we could be. I don't know how that would occur because 2020, we were addressing it at the very beginning, from the very beginning of the year, and having our meetings and getting out and talking to people. So I don't see where we can do that and get out and talk about it to the people. But even if we're addressing it and saying we are going to move forward, but we risk a lot of things. We risk having to spend money because, I mean, I think we've all, Bruce, have you had a tour of the jail? I don't know about Catherine either, but I think we've all had our tours of the jail, and the building has outlived its usefulness. We continue to be in there, but it isn't, it's going to fail. It isn't when, it's...
Or is it if? It
isn't
when.
if, yeah, it's when. And we've had some citations, at least one, if not, I guess I'd have to ask the sheriff, because of some of the COVID issues and some of the other things where we've had to combine, like perhaps minimum and medium security, because now that jail, when it was built, it wasn't built for both sexes. I mean, but we have more now, and we have people that we have to segregate, and we just don't have the room. So we need to get a plan, and we need to start moving forward with it, even if it's finding the answers to those questions and then bringing it on a different millage. I hate to wait 2 years, but really, it shouldn't, I would not recommend it for a special election. But if it does fail, then there's the additional cost, you know, transportation, having deputies not be on their regular duties, but on transportation. I know electronics might help some of those issues, but you're still going to have to house people in a different jail, and the Constitution requires the county to have a jail. So there's that.
So looking at the past and looking at our present situation, what would the county board need to be successful, I guess, in any time, just not in 2022, but beyond? We're going to need to have strong, visible community support. We're going to need to have a site, a plan. And also, I think this board's going to have to show that we're financially responsible, and that if there are ways we can decrease the cost of the taxpayers, that we're doing it. Now, with the ARPA funds, you know, that's a significant amount of money, but is it enough to substantially change the scope of the project? That I don't know.
No, when you were talking about the Thornapple Manor millage, thank you, Michael. The last levy is in 2024. So, and that's 0.7 mils, which I think is approximately what we were talking about with the jail. So the goal was, when I was working through this, was how do we not put another millage on the taxpayers? So you're going to lose a millage with the potential to replace one almost identically with the jail, but at least you're not doubling down again with another one.
Interesting.
So you'll be getting a tax break in 2025. You won't have a millage in 2025 for Thornapple Manor on your tax bill anymore.
Other thoughts? All right, I'll open it up to the public if you guys want to share a quick, some quick thoughts. This board would be very welcoming. Go ahead, Gary.
A couple meetings ago, I came in with a proposal that you take the ARPA money, you take $1 million from technology. I don't know if $1 million was in technology or not. You take $1 million from rehab, and you bond the rest of it. You have a AA negative bond rating. It would reduce some funding you have, but it is your money that the taxpayers give you to do the state constitutional. The best thing you can do right now is ask Michael Brown to see what that would do to future budgets. Get your fund balances, the diverted felon fund, rehab, technology, all these other ones that are designated funds which are not restricted, and see what you have available to you first. Maybe that's where you get your design from. But you've got to see, I'm tired of hearing how great the county bond rating is, and then you don't use it, but you come after millages. I'm sure I'm not the only one. You use credit when it's needed, absolutely, but you don't. If you had bonded this jail 10 years ago, it'd been a third paid off, had a lot less, but it got kicked down the road. You folks have heard about kicking the can down the road. If you'd have bonded the $25 million 2 years ago when you failed, guess what? It'd been $10 million less. Right now, I don't know if you can get parts for a jail. I'm sitting here 3 months out waiting for a controller for a dishwasher. If you watch the news this weekend, refrigerators are a year out. You can't get nothing right now. So, but I would still look at county funding first, see what that draws you down to, use your county funds, and then say, well, maybe we don't need as much. 14% contingency fund, that's a lot of money. So maybe you only have a 10, 12. I don't know what you have in all your, and what they're all out there for, but I think you need to find out what you can do yourselves before you come to the public. That's the real answer. If you can't answer that question, don't come ask me for money. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, we're going to have to continue this discussion. We can't continue not talking about the biggest issues here in the county, so we'll continue this discussion.
Can I speak one more time, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
Gee, I kind of agree with Gary. I think, I think the perception, I think it's like anything else. If the perception that we've all got skin in the game, because this is for everybody, this jail benefits our whole county. So even if we can figure out a way to, like some of the ARPA funds, maybe there's something in the county without jeopardizing our stability, obviously, to show the taxpayers that we're all in on this thing together. There's been so many assessments put out lately and stuff that people are just not feeling it right now. So, but we need it. We do need this jail, and we do have to figure out a way.
Thank you.
And I appreciate Gary's comments. As long as I've been a commissioner, we've continued to have people echo those same comments, almost to the thought of, we haven't thought of this already, which is the part where I've talked to Michael about these existing funds that are possible. There is some money in those funds, but when you talk about, let's just say, a $30 million jail at a 25-year time frame, that's a $1.2 million principal payment and probably closer to $1, $8, or $2 million So you're talking 10% of the county budget for a jail payment. So that's not a plan. I mean, you're not going to cut $2 million out of county,
Right.
County required mandated services or non-mandated services to do that. So can you find some money? Probably. But, you're still talking about $1.8 to $2 million in annual payments for something like this, and that is not something, if you've studied the budget at all, you can't just snap your fingers and find $2 million, a year to make that payment. That's why you need a millage. So there are some ARPA funds. Will $2 million on that make a difference? Maybe a little bit. Could we find another million or two? We can put some skin in the game, but to assume that we can just bond for it, you just don't have an understanding of what the county budget is and the details that go into it at this point. You need to really study that budget, and instead of assuming something that's not true, take a look at it and go ahead and tell us. Take the budget and tell us where that $2 million is coming from. Because people make these statements, but they never make any concrete. I mean, I'm open to all ideas. Anything that'll save the taxpayer monies, let us have it. But we have looked through these things.
Yeah.
These are not things that just fell out of the sky. That we have looked at these things before. So that's why the plan has to be good. It has to be concrete. You need a site. You need a design. You need something physical that we can give people with a clear, concise, concrete plan, and how it's going to be paid for, and how much we're putting into it out of our pocket. I think there's opportunities to take all that into consideration. So, but that's going to take some time. It's not going to be something I think we should rush or throw on, put together hastily in May for an August ballot, in my opinion.
Right. Anything else?
I would just like to make a comment that the county does borrow and bond. You might not see it, but the drain commissioner, those are bonds. When he has, like the Watson, those are bonds that the county borrows against. The city of Middleville the village of Middleville, just came to the Board of Public Works, and we bonded to move forward with their expansion of their water treatment facility and our wastewater. So yes, on big projects where small municipalities need, that's why we pledge our full faith and credit. So we do have bonds out there that we have borrowed. So I don't want people to think that the county isn't paying on bonds, but we are. So we do, but I just wanted to make that clear, that when you make a statement, because we're not, when you said we weren't doing bonds, well, we do. We do go out and get bonds for projects. Gary's got his hand up.
Yeah, Gary. Let me say something, and then you might not need to. But to go back to what the county board would need to be successful in 2022 or in any time, and we need to be clear with the public about how much cash we have on hand, why we have the amount that we do, and the reasons that we need to keep a financial cushion. The tax umbrella fund that we've built over, decades, is a real success for the county, because when Michael Brown 25 years ago came here, I think we had less than $100,000 in the bank. We did not have a strong, stable financial county government. And since then, we have built, we've promoted fiscal discipline that ensures that we don't want to go back to those days of having to wonder if we're going to make payroll. So there's a reason that we did that, but we need to communicate better why those reasons are. The first question is how much, if the county just borrowed the money, how much would the debt payment be? I think it would be over if we, actually, I'm not going to speculate. We just need to show what it would cost every year and why we wouldn't be able to pay for that out of our general fund. I mean, we have almost $19 million county budget. If you decide to take on an endeavor of that size, there are going to be significant changes that you'd have to do to your county government that would affect operations. Very important operations, and a lot of them mandated. So, yeah, Gary?
What I was looking at, you can take it up to 30 years. I was looking at 25 million, not the opposite way around. I was also looking at paying all the ARPA funds that are left over at this point in time, which is $5.5 million, plus a couple $1 million down. So you're not bonding 30 million at 25 years. You might, if you have the money sitting there and you go out for a project, I get a better deal if I can pay cash than if I'm saying, well, let me have this proposal and then let me go ask if I can have credit.
Mm-hmm.
Price goes up automatically. Then as soon as you get a millage, guess what? The price goes up again automatically because, gee, they got the money. So it's how you apply this. That's my business strategy. That's how I was debt free in business for a reason. Do I want to see the county have millage? I don't want no millage. You don't want no debt. The Middleville millage is not being paid by the county, so I understand that they use the bond rating that, but that's being paid by Middleville. So I still think, as I said, if you looked at the whole thing that I wrote down, that your contingency fund is not going to be up to 14%. I wrote that right down. 8 or 10% is what you're going to have as contingency. And that's all as long as fund comes in. What is Michael Brown's 3 to 5 year on all those funds? He probably has that. He may have 10 years. Because, as I said, when I said you need to ask him where the county would be and show those numbers, that's where you're going to get your information. Will he have it all? It's projections. It's trends. I'm sure he's looking at this all the time. Because when I'm in business, I look, okay, what can I get something for? What am I going to pay for it? When can I buy it? So it's going to be the same thing. As I said, I'm thinking right now, your interest rates are going to be going up. They're talking about it. Your millage rates would go up. Your bond rates are going to go, going to cost you more money. And you may not be able to find the parts. So you got a lot of things to consider, but you still got to consider using the taxpayer dollars first over there before you come this way. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, John.
Also, on some of these fund balances stuff that the county has, there has to be some kept there because our jail, I agree 100% that we need a new jail. And our jail is in such bad shape that we don't know when that's going to fail. And there has to be monies there to put them, prisoners, in other places and pay cash for it. So we cannot take them fund balances down very much until we get the new jail built and we don't have to worry about it failing.
Okay. Well, this is a good start to the discussion. We're going to continue it at another meeting. So moving ahead, public comment. At this time, any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
It's me again. Open Meetings Act. You had the opportunity to address, because you had your rules open and on the agenda, how you conduct your meetings. I'm still looking at how you call this a committee of the whole, but you make recommendations to yourself. If you can't, I want to say it one more time. If you can't move yourselves forward, but we've always done it this way, we're going to continue to do it this way, and you don't want to talk about it, you're not going to get anything done. So I still think you violated the Open Meetings Act. Will I find out? I'm going to go put a packet together and go find out, because you can't. Your chairman calls you a board quite often, not a committee. What does the board want to do? I'm not sure. Just because you're doing it doesn't make it legal. Does that make sense? So should you find out about it? Could you address it? Could you address some of your other rules that need to be addressed? Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Rachel France, Berry County Recycling Coordinator, and I just wanted to give a plug for the upcoming Household Hazardous Waste and Tire Disposal event that is coming up on Saturday, May 21st of this year from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Berry County Expo Center and Fairgrounds. More information is available on the website, berrycountyrecycles.org, as well as the Facebook page. That event will be posted today. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Hello, it's been a long time. Nice to see you all again. Adam Heikkila, local business owner. Yeah, this is kind of weird, and it's my wife finally understood and pointed out to me this morning how weird it is that you guys recommend to yourselves, and she pointed out something really interesting about that, that it really is reminiscent of a parody TV show that's really hilarious. Some of you may watch it. It's called Parks and Recreation. And Parks and Recreation, they do a lot of weird, quirky things, and you think, wow, no one would do that. But here we are. And it also was fitting then that, along with the theme of Parks and Recreation, that we had that interview for the Parks and Recreation person today, and I'm sure that gal is a fine lady. But in her little interview, it showed again how this system works. Because she openly stated how she was approached. Because every position that I've heard about, I mean, from all the way down to a county committee, to local township committees, to state level boards, to national level federal, seats that we have here, we don't get people that actually want to stand up and participate, that are doing it for the good. There's people that are in these positions, like that gal who works for the Chamber of Commerce and all these local community groups, and they sit in their group and they be good little do-bodies. And then they get approached. Then they get asked, hey, you're part of our system. Want to rise up and be a part of something more. Build your resume. That's what's happening, and that's what we got to see here today. So we got to see the whole connection of really almost what a parody this is of a governmental body that falls right in line with so many things when you watch the show. But it's not just here, guys. This is what happens in all the boards. I've seen these connections to this shows like this for a very long time. Everywhere I've gone. Because that show was written on reality. Written by people that have also attended boards, seen how things function, and seen the dysfunction. Recognize it. I still, my wife was literally blown away here, wondering, so this board is now a committee today with all the same people, and we recommend something for the next board meeting, not committee meeting, to the same people to make a decision? I mean, that just, when you hear it, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense, and I'd urge you to find. I'd ask Connie and Vivian here, Connors, to. I just wanted to see one last thing was that I want to know if any other county board in the state of Michigan actually does it in the same manner, because I don't know if they do, and I haven't seen it. But I'll research that, and we'll talk about that next time.
Thank you.
Next week.
Is there further public comment?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. My name is Jack Miner. I'm a citizen of Berry County. Fact, you have been repeatedly accused of breaking the law. Fact, in violation of the Open Meeting Act. and scurrilous remarks have been made about your actions and character. It's way past time this ends. Everyone has a right to their opinion, but to make good decisions, you have to deal with facts. This is how law is made in Michigan. The Michigan Senate and House are charged with creating statutory law. It's called the bill. After the bill passes, the legislative body and the governor signs, it becomes law. It is first published as a slip law, then published as a session law, and lastly goes through codification. The official code for Michigan is the Michigan Compiled Laws. Facts. The courts decide facts and apply the law. Courts' decisions are the only ones you should consider. My opinion. When the commissions considered legal opinions that are not grounded in the professional study of law, the whole governing process is slowed. The can gets kicked down the road, the commission's credibility is damaged, and governing becomes more difficult. My opinion, Berry County does not break the law. When you are accused of doing so, there should be only one response. There is a court that will hear your complaint and take your opinions there. A citizen's legal challenge to your authority is not a threat. It is a learning experience for everyone. For everyone. And you will govern better. Thank you for listening. Copies of the source document links for this statement are on the media desk if you wish additional research.
Thank you. Is there further public comment? Hearing none, we have reached the end of our meeting. If there's no objection, we will adjourn the meeting. Hearing no objection, the meeting is adjourned.